Hello to the pessimistic, optimistic, and everyone in between. My name is Connor Philippi, and welcome back to the Minnesotan Sports Podcast. And it's over. It's all done, at least for the first round. The Minnesota Twins moved on after sweeping the Toronto Blue Jays in 2 games. It still feels weird even to say that. But now it's time to move on because after all the excitement, after all the celebration, there's a new goal in mind. It went from the Twins just saying, "Can we please just win one game?" to now being like, "Can we just do it? Can we just break that both streaks and now win a series for the first time in 20 years?" I was one the last time that happened, and now I finally got to experience it for myself. But the one thing I haven't been able to experience is the Twins in the ALCS in the World Series and winning the World Series. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen this year, but anything can happen in playoff baseball. So let's just move on to the next step, try and get past the Astros, and if we can, then kind of feels like we can face anyone, and that's kind of a overly optimistic, you know, mindset to take. And I'm not saying I feel like we can take anyone right now, but if we can take down the Astros, who are a very playoff experienced team and just a very good team all across the board, good pitching, good hitting, if we can take care of them and move on to the next round, I'd be walking on air and I'd feel like the Twins could potentially do this. For now, I'm still cautious about going into this series. This is going to be a really tough one, and we'll explain why. Quickly, the history between these two teams. The only time that we played the Astros in the postseason was just in 2020, where the Astros swept us 2-0 in just two very frustrating games where the pitching did its job and the Twins just couldn't score any runs. That series kind of felt like the way the Blue Jays series went for the Blue Jays this year, where the Blue Jays got some great pitching, but they just couldn't come up with runs themselves, and they lost the games that way. That's the only time we played the Astros in the postseason because the Astros used to be in the National League. That's the first time. So it'll be the second meeting between these two teams. Getting into a little bit of the injury updates and everything to do with that before we get into these previews. Correa, we still don't know for certain what the extent of the hand injury is. He ended up continuing to play, but as we know, those things aren't just like obviously it is a good sign that the Twins didn't take him out, because if there was any chance that he was going to have some legitimate, like, long-term damage with it, they would have taken him out immediately as a precaution. The fact that he stayed in, continued to play in the field and everything like that is a good indication. But sometimes those things do flare up a couple days after, so we'll just keep our fingers crossed that he's still good to go, because we need, his bat to pick up, but we also need his defense to stay as strong as it's been. And he was a good reason defensively, or a big reason defensively, for how we were still able to win that series with less run support. Royce Lewis, it seems like he is back from his hamstring injury. The only question is, are we still concerned enough about him re-aggravating it where he will play third or won't play third? Because Jorge Polanco is struggling at the third base position. He almost costed us a couple runs that first game where Correa made that incredible play. If Correa hadn't been able to come up with that, that would have been on Polanco, to where he completely missed that. And so that's going to be a big factor. If Royce Lewis can play back in third base, I'll feel even better about this team defensively. Let's get Polanco in to DH. But if there's any chance that Lewis is still in jeopardy of re-aggravating that injury, then I think it's still a good idea to DH him, because his bat is so valuable. We can't lose him in this series. Also, Buxton is expected to be out until the 15th at least. At this point, I'm sorry, Buxton, I just don't want to see him for the rest of the season at this point. He didn't even play well when he was healthy. Buxton at this point is never fully healthy, but when he was healthy enough to play even, he wasn't a big enough factor with his bat to justify putting him in as a DH. I just don't feel like there's anyone in this lineup that I would want to take out and put Buxton in at this point. It's just too much of a risk to take when Buxton hasn't played in so long. Just let's keep him out. Let's see what happens next year at this point. Also, Nick Gordon could be coming back from injury, but again, I can't think of anyone on this roster that I would want to switch out Nick Gordon for. He can't do anything in the infield. That's not what he plays. So, and outfield is good for now. So the question is, do I agree with Bailey Ober starting game one over someone like Maeda or Ryan? And I personally really like this decision. I think this is the right move for the Twins to make. First of all, let's talk about Maeda. I feel like Maeda is our best bet as a long bullpen arm, and I think we desperately need a long bullpen arm, a guy that can come in for 3 or even 4 innings. I feel like if Pablo is off to a rough start, or Gray, like Gray in game 2 a couple nights ago got himself into a lot of dilemmas where his pitch count got high pretty early into the game. If that happens again, or if even Gray pitches some scoreless innings, but it only goes 4 innings, I don't know if I trust 4 or even 5 of our bullpen arms all to be able to be on at the same time. So I feel like to have Maeda in as that option of like he can come in there and he can deliver 4 good innings in a game where we desperately need that help. I think he's honestly more valuable in that part than in the starting pitching position. Even though he is a very valuable aspect of our pitching rotation, I just feel like the 4 of Ryan, Ober, Gray, and Pablo is our best rotation with what he can do in the bullpen. And then as for Ryan, I think this is actually a really smart move to have Ryan pitch at home at Target Field. First of all, Ryan has a better track record this season at Target Field. Also, Ryan is known for sure over the last half of this season as a pitcher who can get a lot of strikeouts, but he is a home run pitcher. He is a guy that if he gives up runs, he gives them up over the seats. And so the Minute Maid Park is a home run favorable ballpark. The Astros hit a lot of home runs in that ballpark. So I think that, Ober being the more strikeout heavy pitcher of the two, and with Ober giving up less home runs than Ryan does, I think it's a good move to have him in Houston, and then to have Ryan come back here in a game 4 potential, hopefully we get to game 4 situation, and have him start here at home. I feel like it's just more comfortable for him to pitch here. So I do agree with that move as well. So now going into the keys to the series, the first one, the obvious one being based on the score sheets of the wild card series, the Twins just need more run support. We need more help from guys that are not named Royce Lewis and Carlos Correa. It's crazy to be able to say that we won 2 games in the postseason based off of 3 players getting hits. That's pretty, it's unheard of, honestly, because we got the 1 run from Carlos Correa. Castro, I think it was Castro, right? He doubled into that double play, technically got an RBI, and then it was Lewis that got all the run support for the first game. And just to say it bluntly, that's not going to fly against the Astros. It's just not, because no matter how well we pitch against them, they are a offensive superpower. They will score. I guarantee you, over the span of the first 2 games, they will score at least 4 or 5 runs, whereas the Blue Jays were only able to manage 1. So we're going to need to match that run support, and we're going to need to hit the ball better. It's going to be difficult because we are going up against Verlander, we're going up against Valdez, and many others in the Houston starting rotation that are big-time arms. And it's not going to fly to only be able to get a few runs from a few players in this series. We need Kepler to be able to do what he did in the entire second half of this season. He was lighting it up after the trade deadline. We need to see his bat. Honestly, Polanco has been hitting the ball well. We need to see him. And it's just a situation where that situational hitting is going to have to be at its absolute forefront. And the next one is, can the bullpen maintain success against these clutch and experienced hitters? Looking at this Houston Astros lineup, we've got Jose Abreu, Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Jeremy Pena, Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, Michael Brantley, these are all players that either played with the Astros in the last couple seasons or have postseason experience. This is a team that knows postseason baseball like the back of their hand. They've been here so many times the last few years. And so it's going to be a much different situation than going up against the Blue Jays, who, yes, have a little bit of postseason experience the last few years. And they do have a few players like George Springer that have experience with it. But this is a whole other level of knowing just what to do in these situations. And we have veterans. We have Sonny Gray, and we have Carlos Correa and Polanco, and we have veterans on our roster, but not a lot of them are in the bullpen, and that's kind of the scary part. And that's why I feel like Maeda, in at least one of these games, is going to have to play a big part in his having that experience, coming out of the bullpen when he pitched for the Dodgers a few years back. And it's going to be difficult for this bullpen, but they're going to have to find a way. I'm not saying they have to find a way to not allow any runs in the last few innings of every game like they did. We have to accept the Astros are going to score some runs in the 7th, 8th, and ninth innings of these games, and we're going to have to be the team that's going to respond to that offensively. But can the bullpen just not implode? Can the bullpen find a way where if they give up a run or two, that's all they do? They stop the bleeding, because I feel like this Twins team offensively can find ways to get back into this game when the Astros hit a couple home runs in those late innings, and we're gonna have to find a way to do that. But we can't have those innings where a couple bullpen pitchers come in and give up 4 or 5 runs. I mean, that's just going to lose the game for us. We're not going to be able to keep up with that. So, huge aspect there. Another one is a big thing the Twins can do here, and I actually feel pretty confident they can do this and manage this based off of the energy that we've seen from them in the postseason so far this postseason, is embracing the noise of the opposing crowd. Maintaining the same energy as if you are playing a home game. And I feel like this team believes in each other. I feel like this team has a lot of resolve and heart, and has embraced the fact that the entire league sees them as underdogs that don't deserve to be here, that are supposed to be just written off as soon as they start playing. And I think that's going to really benefit them now going away and playing in a opposing crowd, because they've heard it all season long. Maybe they haven't heard it from a bunch of loud screaming fans in the postseason, but they've heard it in the news, they've heard it on TV, they've heard it everywhere else, that this team isn't going to cut it when they get to the postseason. And I feel like that's going to be good for them to go into this really loud, playoff experienced crowd there in Houston, and go in there, try and silence them early. I mean, you got to have that same energy. And then finally, this is a kind of an overarching of all the different points, taking advantage of every single opportunity that comes your way. These Twins are going to need run support, like I said. Every time that they have runners in scoring position, they have to find a way to at least get one run in. When the bases are loaded, you got to get a double out of that and score 2 or 3 runs out of that. I mean, you can't just, get a double play that, okay, we scored 1 run and our bullpen's going to be able to lock it down. That's not the way this Astros offense is going to roll against you. You have to take advantage of every opportunity. When the Astros give up an error, pounce on it. Get runs out of that error. And when the Astros players seem to be striking out, don't let up. Make sure you stay on the gas. I mean, there's so many ways that Houston can find ways to take that momentum and just run with it. We saw that the way the Mariners were ahead by so much in Game 1 of the ALDS last year. We can learn a lot from this last year's Mariners team. We can honestly draw a lot of similarities between the two, because the Mariners had a lot of milestones that they broke that season. They came into this series with a lot of swagger, and they got ahead early, but then I feel like they just kind of plateaued, and the Twins can't do that, because you saw what Yordan Alvarez did against that Mariners team. They came all the way back and they cranked a home run. So keep that momentum up, take advantage of all those opportunities, make the Astros pay for everything that they do wrong in this series. If the Twins can play their best brand of baseball they played all year, they can beat the Astros. And all it takes is a few mistakes by the Astros for this Twins team to start gaining some momentum, and they are definitely capable of winning this series. However, I'm sorry, I know in the last series against the Blue Jays, I predicted that the Blue Jays would win this in three, and I predicted that wrong, and boy, am I happy that I did. And I'm also very hopeful that I predict this one wrong as well, but I am going to say I think the Astros are going to win this one in 4 games. I think that the Astros will win both of them in Houston, and the Twins will hopefully find a way to at least win one in Minnesota. And then I think that game 4 will be a rough one for them. I fear for Joe Ryan's performance against these Astros that can really hit the ball far. And I think that they should be able to win this series in 4. But like I said, the Twins are more than capable of getting this job done. It's just they have to play their best baseball that they can possibly play. So let me know what you think in the comments. A big series coming up. The Twins can make an even bigger statement. They already have done enough, in my opinion, to prove to the front office that they need to make some moves in the offseason to get this team even better, that they are just a few steps away from competing for a World Series in the coming years. If we can win this one and make it onto the ALCS and put up a fight against the next team, I mean it'll go an even further way to make this front office truly start to believe in this team. But thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments what you think. I will be at the stadium tomorrow on Saturday to do the watch party at Target Field, where we'll be watching the game in Houston, and I'll do a raw reaction from the stadium as soon as that one is over. So thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the flip side.